This time in the wood shop, a hand tool kit for the beginning woodworker. So this is Zoe, and she's 8 and she wants to be a woodworker. At least that's what she says. In fact, she's got designs on taking over Dad's shed. So maybe if, cover your ears, Zoe. Maybe if Daddy gets a bigger shed, Zoe can have this one. Maybe. Shh, just cover your ears. Anyway, so Zoe wants to be a woodworker, and the best way to start her off is with a proper set of tools, not a toy set or something like that. At least that was my opinion. 1 second, we have to delete a cat. So this Christmas, I made up a list of tools, and my wife and I went out and bought them to outfit Zoe with a reasonable kit of tools for which, or that she can use to do just about any woodworking project. Now, before we get to the kit of tools, she needed something to store it in, so I used this book, and I copied Roy Underhill's iconic toolbox. And it didn't turn out too badly. It's a lot of weird angles, which was a little bit of a new experience for me. But I decided to leave it in a rustic style. It's made out of, it's got a mahogany handle, and it's made out of walnut. And I've joined the corners with these wrought iron cut nails, or wrought iron nails. I don't know if they qualify as cut nails. They don't really look the same. So that's what the box, that's the box that Zoe has to hold her new set of tools. Now we'll empty the box out, and I'll go through the list of what we got for Zoe this Christmas. Okay, I've emptied out Zoe's toolbox, and I'm going to show you what is in it. I'm going to start with a list. I made up a list for my wife, a shopping list. Now this list is based on quite a bit of research, looking at the Anarchist tool chest and quite a few other items. And this is what I feel the beginning woodworker, the basic stuff that you really have to have. Now this whole list is in the description for this video. So if you would like the list, it's right there. The stores we bought it at and the model numbers obviously are not there. But the basic tool list itself is there. So I'm just going to start at the top of the list, just in case you've printed out the description, and go through what's inside this box. So the first thing was the clamping, and for that we got Zoe 2 C-clamps. These are 3-inch Canadian Tire C-clamps, and they work really well. Alright, obviously 2 C-clamps are not going to do it. Everyone's heard the old adage, you can never have too many clamps. But there are ways to get around having a lot of other clamps by building jigs and stuff yourself. I'll get to a list of what this toolbox is missing after. For now, I'm just going to go through the tools, though. So, 2 C-clamps, 3 inches. So, Lee Valley has these Chinese brushes, and it's got a good size handle, and she can use it for cleaning dust off of things so that she can see what she's doing. And that is the cleaning item on the list. Now, I was planning on getting her just a number 2 Robertson screwdriver, but for the same price, I could get her this set of 5 screwdrivers, which has 2 Phillips, it's got a Robertson, and it's got 2 flatheads, which is good because she can use those for adjusting things on hand planes and whatnot, even though they're not the best flatheads in the world. But you'll need some kind of a screwdriver. So we got her a small, and I actually kind of like this drill. It's a nice size, and I might get one for myself. But a little Mastercraft cordless drill that is single speed, but it's got plenty of power. I've been messing around with it, and I'm happy with it. And to go with that, we got her 3 brad point drill bits. We got a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, and a 3/16. I like brad point bits because you can put a little awl hole there, and then the point on the end of the bit can go into the awl hole, and she'll never miss where she's aiming at. And we got her some 7/64 drills, which are what I prefer. Yeah, bring them right over, Zoe. This is my preference for drilling pilot holes for number 8 wood screws.
Also, the drill goes in this one, obviously, because the drill is pretty big. All the little drill bits and stuff go in the front pocket, which is fairly small, and it's actually a quite nice little bag. because you got two handles and you can hold it, not like one of those ones where like you put under your
I got Zoe one chisel, a 1/2 inch Nerix chisel from Lee Valley. You cannot beat these. The steel's good. It's about $13 at Lee Valley, and you just can't beat it for the price. It's a good chisel. When doing your joinery, you need to be able to lay it out and mark everything. So you need something to measure with, measuring tape or one of these. I prefer these because she won't have to worry about the tape going back inside the case. She can just leave it laying on the bench. It's very difficult to find these anymore, especially if you like working in inches, and I prefer working in inches, but Lee Valley has started making these things again, and they're only a few, I think it's $8 a piece, and that's a really good value. In order, pencil obviously is one of the best ways to mark, but you need some kind of a scratch-all. A marking gauge, and this one's really neat. This comes from Lee Valley too. It's called a pocket marking gauge, and it's got 2 wheel gauges, one on each end. And you could even use this for mortising by setting the near side of the mortise on one and the far side of the mortise on the other, so that you could flip it over and mark both edges of the mortise. It's quite a nice little gauge, and it's inexpensive. Lastly, for laying out joinery, I like a combination square. I prefer one with some kind of a cast head. Obviously a Starrett one would be a really good choice, but this was one from, I got this from Home Hardware, and it's good and square, and it was reasonably priced. Obviously when you're joining pieces of wood together, you're going to use screws, but you're probably going to use nails as well. So for that, you're going to need something to set the nails below the surface. You're going to need something to cut off the ends of nails or to pull them if they need to be pulled out. And a hammer, and this is a small hammer that Lee Valley sells that's about the right size for Zoe, but obviously if you're looking at this as an adult, you're going to want a full-size hammer. Before you can join wood and fasten it together, you need to cut it to size. There's a variety of different cutting things that you'll probably need. Obviously, if you're cutting things that are not straight, or if you happen to like using these for dovetails, coping saw is a good thing to have. It's always good to have with that extra blades. I don't know about anybody else, but I break them quite a bit. Now, in addition to that, to break wood down to the size for joining, you need a carpenter saw. I'm a little worried about this one because it's quite aggressive, but if she doesn't force it, it should work well, and the handle's not even too fat for her. So there's a Stanley Fat Max, just a kind of a 15-inch toolbox saw, 8 tooth per inch. When she does joinery, she needs something in the line of a back saw. Now, a lot of the back saws are quite expensive. I forgot how much they want for dovetail saws because I was looking at another one recently, and some of them are close to $300. So instead of getting her an actual dovetail saw, we got her something a little smaller, which is a gent saw. If I have to, because these teeth are pretty small, I may have to refile this for a rip cut with fewer teeth. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to do that just yet, but I may have to knock some of the set off of it with a hammer and a block of wood. But that is from Lee Valley. It's a crown tool made in England, and it's reasonably inexpensive, and it should really do the trick. Whatever it is you're building, you'll need to smooth. A rasp and a file are two of the best ways to do that. This is from Lee Valley. I got this. It's a Swiss-made 4-in-hand, so it's got a half-round rasp and file and a flat rasp and file, and that is a handy all-in-one tool that will do the trick. And in addition to that, you'll need sandpaper, which I haven't put on the list, but I would think that would be obvious. Now, there's one thing that's not on the list, and I didn't think of it before I did the description. I should have added it, especially with all the angles in this toolbox, and that is a sliding bevel gauge. And I picked this up at Home Hardware sort of at the last minute when I realized that I used one so much in the toolbox that it should have been on the list, and it's not on a lot of lists really, but a sliding bevel gauge is always a good thing to have. So I thought something was missing. Zoe forgot to put her plane back inside the bucket, so we didn't cover that. This is on the list as well. This is a Chinese plane I got at Busy Bee, but it's based on a Stanley design, and it's the same design that I think it's Christopher Schwartz's favorite block plane from Lee Nielsen is based off of this same design, which is why I picked this one instead of some of the other designs I could have picked at the Busy Bee tool place. So it's a good, solid, reasonable quality plane, and that's important so that you don't get frustrated. Now, there are a couple of things that are missing. There's a couple of drawbacks to this. So first of all, I didn't put anything in there that has anything to do with sharp. I figured that Zoe can rely on me for any sharpening that she needs at this point until it's time to teach her that. Obviously, she would need some help dimensioning large wood for projects. So for example, if she needed a sheet of plywood and she needs it cut down, she's going to have to rely on me for that. If you're an adult, you might need to rely on the lumberyard. Lots of times they'll have project boards at Home Depot, or they might be able to cut it down to size for you. Now the toolbox itself, aside from the box, which I think is about $40 worth of lumber. I'd have to add it up because I forget how many board feet it is. The tools themselves cost about 280 bucks. So to get into woodworking at a basic level like this, you really only need 280 bucks and then some lumber. You can make this box. Obviously you don't need to make it out of walnut and mahogany. It can be made out of plywood. It can be made out of 1x4s. You can use a tool bag. You can get those fairly cheap. Being a basic hand tool kit, obviously you have to go somewhere from here. So I've identified a few next steps which would be logical for Zoe to take. Number one would be to make some things for herself. Sawhorses would be probably the best first project, because you probably, if you're starting out, don't have a workbench. I know Zoe doesn't really have one yet. So a pair of sawhorses and a piece of 2x12 or a piece of plywood or a hollow core door or something would be a good first workbench for Zoe. You also need some kind of a mallet. I don't think you should be hitting a chisel with a hammer, with a claw hammer. I turn my own mallets. Obviously a beginning woodworker is not going to have a lathe. But I can show Zoe in just a few minutes how to take the handsaw she's got and a chisel and a hand plane and use a piece of firewood, and she can make quite a nice little mallet. A bench hook would be a next best step, or a shooting board. This plane here is actually very good for use with a shooting board, and that's probably something that I will really recommend that she makes. Another thing is a fret saw platform. The little bird's mouth thing for using the coping saw with, so that she can place small parts on there and cut them out. Obviously she's only got 2 clamps, so it's possible to make clamps like this. These are clamps for guitar making, cam clamps. You can make these all out of wood. Or you can buy them. I mean, obviously you can, anything that you haven't got yet, you can obviously buy, but lots of stuff you can actually make. Now, you don't even have to use clamps. You can just use a wedging system, and you can look that up on the internet and find out how people use wedges to clamp things or to keep things in place on the workbench. So there's lots of stuff to make, and that would be the first step. The second step is a bigger plane than this. Probably the most used plane in a workshop is going to be a number 4 smoothing plane or a number 5 jack. So that would be the next place, one of those to go with this. Right. A number 4 smoother or a number 5 jack plane can be purchased off of eBay. I've done that, or flea markets, I've done that, or I've purchased them off other woodworkers. In order to cut different sizes of dovetails, obviously a 1/2-inch chisel is pretty limiting. All you need to really do is buy a 1/4-inch chisel, and those are the 2 sizes I use the most, is 1/4 and 1/2-inch. You can buy other sizes too, but really if you go in and spend 13 bucks at Lee Valley and buy a 1/4-inch chisel, you'll be set for the most part for chisels. You can make do with those. Number 4, I would add a few more drill bits, maybe some driver bits. And number 5, the last of the 5 next steps would be to get a larger saw, get a rip saw and a crosscut saw if you're a hand tool purist. Or if you prefer, you can get a circular saw with a reasonably good blade, and those aren't that hard to find or that expensive. So there is the beginner's toolkit. This one's designed really with a 9-year-old, 8-year-old. How old are you?
8.
8. This was designed with an 8-year-old in mind, and but you can customize it to your own needs. So thank you for watching.
Like and subscribe.
And Happy New Year to you.
Do 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 do.
Stop laughing. Anyway.